So hello everybody, it has been a while since I've done anything, but yeah, I don't know, I'm back in college now and things are pretty hectic. I haven't had a lot of time to record stuff or draw that much, so yeah, but I finally got this video out because today I decided, as you could probably tell by the title, that I am going to be talking about Kerasan, my original species. So, basically I decided to make this video because I have a lot of newer fans than I did before, and a lot of them don't know what Kerasan are because I haven't drawn them in forever because I've been working on other stuff. But basically, so what are Kerasans exactly? Kerasans are an original species that I made. At first they started off as like fan characters for another person's species, which was a poop. If you know her now, her name's I think her username was like Poopom or Alicia something. But a long time ago, she used to be the Shiny Eevee. So a lot of my characters at the time were based on her characters back when she called them Chow. But then over time, I slowly started to develop them and kind of make them their own separate thing and not be identical to her characters. But so basically, Kerasan are like I said, I originally based them off of Shiny Eevee's Chow characters, and then I started making them their own thing. Their name, I based it off of a Japanese word that I found, which I can't remember what the word is because it was a very long time ago when I found it. But the Japanese word was, it basically meant, small, fluffy creature, or unknown fluffy creature, something along those lines. And I just kind of edit the word to where it, fit my species a little bit more. So, yeah. Oh, and also, I know this is stupid, but it's Kerasan, not Kerasin. I know people have been spelling it with an E instead of an A, and that gets on my nerves a little bit because it's not that hard to spell. It's not a hard word to spell. Okay, but basically, right now I am currently trying to rework Kerasan. I'm trying to make them more of their own species, so that way, because before I had them where they were basically just furry creatures that they acted human, they just happened to be furry creatures. And a very sweet friend of mine who on DeviantArt, her username is Suma the Doodler, I highly recommend checking her out. She helped me kind of realize that, and she along with a few of my other friends helped me kind of redesign them and recreate them to where they're kind of their own species now. But the Kerasan world is basically based in a fantasy world. A lot of it is magic based. And there are different species, there's different types of Kerasan, I guess I should say. So there are the Kitsunians, which the Kitsunians are the ones that tend to look more fox-like or cat-like, or they basically look more like animals that you'd probably see. They tend to be the few Kerasan that have visible ears. They tend to have bigger paws, and they tend to have longer hair than the Kerasan, and they are very adaptable. They can pretty much live in any environment because they're used to just kind of living out in open spaces and just kind of pretty much living anywhere. There's the Angelians, which are more bird-like, and every single Angelian has wings, and it's actually a birth defect if they don't have wings, but it's a very rare birth defect, so very little Angelians don't have wings. They tend to live in higher up places. They tend to, like, I like to imagine that their villages are, like, either built in the sides of cliffs, or they're built, like, up in the treetops. Like, they tend to just enjoy being anywhere that's, like, really, really high up. And then, last but not least, is the Draconians, and the Draconians tend to be more goat-like in appearance, and they have little demon tails. Not all of them have demon tails, but for the most part, a lot of them do. Draconians tend to be more, they tend to be more aggressive than the previous two, and they tend to like to live in places that are dark. Like, they like places with very little light. It's just more comforting to them. And there are 2 other Kerasan that like my friends and I are currently working on. I don't have everything for them figured out yet, so I'm not going to mention them. I'm currently, like, reading the questions that you guys have asked to, like, know what you want to know about them, and I've already answered the most asked ones, which were what are Kerasan and what are the types. So there are 2 subspecies. Someone asked, like, if there were subspecies. There are 2 subspecies that I like to think of, which one of them is they're crystal Kerasan. Essentially, they're Kerasan that have somehow genetically, like, somehow they have grown, like, some form of crystal or gem on their tail, and it's something that enhances their magical ability. And I kind of like to think that it's very, very rare for a Kerasan to have that happen to them. Like, usually I like to think it's the result of a curse, or it's the result of some kind of magic spell, but for the most part, it's very, very rare for a Kerasan to have a crystal on their tail. By the way, if you hear weird noises in the background, that's the AC in my dorm building coming on and off. It does that. I'm sorry. I have no way of controlling that. So another thing is, so Kerasan as a whole has changed completely, has changed a lot since I first started on it. And one of the things that has changed is, like kind of the structure of Kerasan society. Like, there is no royal family like there was before. There are no Kerasan gods, essentially. Like, basically all that stuff, like, is gone out the window. Like, they don't exist anymore. What does exist, though, is the way I have it now is that the Kerasan that were gods before are no longer gods in the updated version of the story and the updated version of the characters. Basically, this time they are considered sorcerers and sorceresses. But they're considered that. They're just considered Kerasan who have mastered varying degrees of magic, and they use that magic to help and affect the world of Kerasan, essentially. And I do want to play around with the idea that that there are some Kerasan that don't believe they exist. Like, there are some Kerasan that like just don't believe, like, they believe magic exists, they just don't believe that there is a large group of Kerasan that are considered the sorcerers that, like, affect things in nature for Kerasan, essentially. Not all of them affect nature, but most of them do. So, and I, so Kara's also, I noticed a lot of you are asking, like, about the lifespan of a Kerasan, which, that I do not know. That I have not thought about too much, especially since, I don't know, I haven't thought about it too much because Kerasan are kind of the only ones that exist in their world, like, they're the only, I guess being, like, sentient beings, for the most part. Like, there will be, like, smaller animals, because I do imagine that some Kerasan do eat meat, but most of them eat plants and fruits and berries and stuff for the most part. But other than that, there's not going to be any other sentient beings in Kerasan. And, but yeah, so because of that, I haven't put that much thought into it, mostly because I just don't think it's important to the story to know how long they live for. I just think that that's irrelevant information, like, considering the stories. But, somebody asked if there would be unique plants or animals in the Kerasan world, and like I said before, I do plan to add, like, smaller animals that, like, they hunt or that they keep as pets, and I do plan to have some made up plants and stuff in the Kerasan world. But yeah, like I said, those are pretty much gonna, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. But yeah, so another thing is, vampire Kerasan are something that people want to know about, because my vampire Kerasan are the ones that kind of got them popular to begin with. And people have questions about those characters and about those stories. So vampire Kerasan are still a thing. They are still a thing. But they're gonna be very different from how they were before in the story. Basically, and again, a big thank you to Suma the Dueler for helping me out with this. Basically, instead of it being like traditional vampire stuff, like where they have to bite each other to turn them into each other, basically, instead of it being purely supernatural, vampire Kerasan have, I think the way Suma and I talked about it was that it was gonna be like, kind of like a disease, or like they have like a lining in their stomach to where they have to get nutrients from drinking blood, like they don't have a choice with it. And I like to add that they were like, if they wanted to make somebody just like them, they would make them drink their blood, so that way the disease spreads. I know that sounds really gross, but yeah. And then I know a couple people have asked me if the vampire Kerasan are gonna have the eye thing that they did, like where the color of their eyes represented their powers and stuff, and no, that's not going to be a thing anymore. Mostly because since this isn't a supernatural thing, it's going to be more of like a disease, or more like a biological explanation for why they drink blood. Like, they can still do magic, and they can still do certain things that other Kerasan could do. It's just, but they won't have, like, unique powers depending on their eye color anymore. Now, I will say that they will have certain attributes about them, like, because of the disease, like, that will be vampiric in nature, but as far as them having unique powers, like Cyril being able to hypnotize people and all that, like, yeah, those aren't gonna be a thing anymore. Like, I'm sorry if that disappoints a lot of you, but it's just not gonna be a thing anymore. Let's see, what else can I talk about without revealing too much? So, another thing is, so some people have noticed, or some people have questions about, like, characters themselves, like, not just Kerasan as a whole, which is, a lot of them are shipping based, which is fine, but I don't know, but so basically, one person asked, like, for the Lucky and Friends comic, somebody wanted to know if Pyro and Neptune were gonna be a thing in that comic. And I told them that, I think I've explained, like, yes, like, certain couples that were in previous stories are still gonna be couples in the modern stories. I think the only exception is, I think one of the only exceptions is Frost and Smoke, since I moved them over to SSS, so they are no longer part of the Kerasan universe. They are now, like, human characters in SSS. But other than that, like, Flynn and Surreal, like, Pyro and Neptune, like, those couples, like, they're still gonna be a thing. And okay, I also have to bring this up because for some reason there's certain people that don't understand this for some reason. With the sorcerers, and I think it's because of old roleplays, but I've stated this a lot of times that for some reason people don't understand it for some reason. Like, okay, like, the sorcerers are not pro-slavery, let's put it like that. Like, the sorcerers have students that they can teach magic to. They have apprentices that they can teach magic to. But they themselves do not consider their students their slaves, if that makes sense. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I've had people have their characters refer to certain sorcerer characters as master, and that's not a thing. It's never going to be a thing. Like, because it's just really weird. I just can't picture certain characters doing that. Now, that's not to say that there's not some shitty Kerasan villains who would consider them that way, but at the same time, it's like, I'm not talking about the villains, I'm just talking about the regular ones. Like the ones that are, like, the good guys, essentially. if you get what I mean. Alright. And then on to villains. A lot of people are confused about Sarlacc, which I don't know why, but they are. Basically, the whole deal with Sarlacc now is that he is not 100% evil like he was before. He is, he's basically being manipulated by a shadow demon thing, or he's, like, not really a shadow demon thing, kinda, but the whole idea is that he's, like, the remains of a sorcerer that, like, went too far with dark magic, and he's now, like, possessing this book. And Sarlacc is in possession of that book, and he's basically being manipulated into collecting these different magical artifacts and these different magical items to make himself more powerful. But he doesn't realize that he's being tricked, essentially. But And also, yeah, that doesn't reveal too much of the story, by the way. There's more to it than that, but that's basically, like, that's basically just kind of the long and short of it. Twisted Deck is also an interesting one. He can, like, people are asking if they are still brothers, if they're still biological brothers. And biologically, no, they are not brothers, but, they consider themselves brothers, and the reason for that is because I believe I've written this in Twisted Deck's bio, where it said that Twisted Deck saved Sarlacc from his abusive father, and Twisted Deck kind of just took him in and raised him as his own, but they didn't form like a father-son relationship. They ended up forming like a more of a brotherly bond because they were only like a few years apart when they found each other. So, yeah, so that's the thing. Like, they're brothers. They're not biologically, but they consider themselves to be brothers. And then there's also the thing with Joker and Julius that for some reason people still don't get this. I don't know why people still don't get this. Okay, so yes, while Joker and Julius are not biologically twins, while they are not biologically brothers, while they are not brothers in a sense, they are still technically the same person. So no, you cannot ship them together. Like, that is not a thing. Like, you cannot ship them together. I've noticed some people have been trying to ship them together, but you can't do that because they just the story with them is that they were one being and then they were split into two beings. So they're still like the same. It's like the left brain and the right brain thing. Like, they are technically the same person. They are technically the same person. They are just two separate beings. So it's really weird when I see people trying to ship them together, because it's just like it's kind of self-cessed essentially. And I know I kind of might sound like a hypocrite because I used to ship like the Sanses together, and that's technically self-cessed, but that was like years ago, and I no longer do that, and I don't support that anymore for the most part. But yeah, like, I'm running out of things to talk about with this because I don't know what to talk about. Like, I don't know what to talk about that would be relevant, and I don't know what to talk about because I don't want to reveal too much of the stories with these characters, because I want most of it to be left up to the imagination when I do start writing the stories. Sorry, I'm like, it's like lunchtime for me, and I didn't get to eat until just now, so if you hear me like chewing on something, it's because I'm really, really hungry. Because I literally left class like a few minutes ago. I'm sorry. Okay, another thing, a certain someone, she knows who she is asking about a royal garden, which was an old thing with Twisted Deck, but, that is no longer going to be a thing. Like, the sorcerers do have a garden, but it is a garden that they use for, like, creating potions and stuff like that. Almost cursed there, almost, I don't want to curse, because I know, like, a lot of my audience is, or I don't want to curse in my videos, at the very least, because I know, like, a lot of my audience is, like, young people, but, like, I want to stay PG on my YouTube, at least. But Twisted Dick himself does not have his own garden anymore. He shares a garden with the other sorcerers that they use to make potions and in order to make certain spells work, or to perform rituals for certain spells. So, So yeah, basically though, that is not that. Yeah, like he doesn't have his own garden anymore. Like that's not a thing anymore. Like stop asking about it. I Also, this also I think needs to be mentioned, but like, not every single Kerasan can use magic. Like it's kind of like a thing where it's like you're either born with it or you just can't do it. Like not all Kerasan have to be magical. They have the potential of learning magic, but a lot of the times their magic won't be that great unless they were like born with it or they had been trained to use it since they were like young. Also, there's many different there's different types of magic that they can do. Like literally, like there is no limit to like what kind of magic they can have. Like you can literally just go crazy with that. Like as long as it's okay with me, like I don't care what you do. Like with magic wise, at least. Alright, also, so Lucky Knight made a lovely, 3 lovely references for the different types of Kerasan. Wait, did I say 4 or 3? If I said 4, I meant 3. And people pointed out that some people have asked about, the things where when two different types of Kerasan, have a baby, like what it'll look like, and they pointed out that we added mixed Kerasan traits, and I'm going to say this now. Those are very rare traits to have. Like most of the time, if a Darkonian and an Angelian had a baby, like usually they would either have one of those rare traits or they would just look kind of like a mix between an Angelian and a Darkonian. They wouldn't have both like demon wings and Angelian horns, if that makes sense. So, and then, I don't know, like, I'm running out of things to talk about, like I said, because I'm trying to read the questions, but you guys didn't ask a lot of questions, and a lot of the questions that I'm looking at are just, like, inconsequential, like, they don't really affect anything, or they're just, like, questions about things that don't really matter, like, at least with the characters, or any. One person has asked if they have different languages, and no, they do not. Like, a lot of them tend to speak the same language. I do like to imagine that they might have, like, a secret language, like, to, like, write spells with, maybe, but other than that, like, not really. They don't really have a secret language or anything. And then what their culture is like. Their culture is firmly based in magic. Because a majority of Kerasan do have magical abilities. So a lot of what they do and a lot of the stuff they talk about is based in magic. So, yeah. And then, there are different, Kerasan have villages now. They do not have towns and cities. They have villages, and these villages tend to be, the buildings in those villages tend to be made of different materials depending on the Kerasan that live there. Like sometimes it'll be made of, like, different wood, or there'll be certain flowers growing around it. And I'll explain more of that, like, later when I actually start working on the stories. like they'll be made of like different wood, or they'll have different flowers, or they'll have like they'll be built a certain way. Like I said with the Angelians tend to have their houses built into like the sides of cliffs or on top of trees. And while the Angelians can just fly from place to place, I like to imagine that they do have bridges in between the buildings for Kerasan that visit that can't fly. Like that. Baby Kerasan. I need to talk about baby Kerasan. Okay, so baby Kerasan are very small, like they could fit in the palm of your hand. I like to imagine that they can because that is adorable. Draconian babies tend to be really aggressive, and they since they have horns, they tend to kind of like to ram into things. They like to rub their horns sharpen their horns on things, or they just tend to kind of be very rowdy children, essentially. Kitsunian babies are like super hyper. They love to hop around. They love to climb things. They love to just do a bunch of fun outside activities. And they also tend to be very, very fluffy as well. Like that is a main thing. All Kerasan babies are super, super fluffy, and you must all remember that. And then Angelian babies are like baby birds, and when they get to a certain age, they tend to do what birds do and kind of push them out off like the side of like this little deck area in their village where the babies attempt to fly. And don't worry, they don't just let their babies plummet to their deaths. What they do is there's guards that stay under, and they catch the baby if the baby isn't able to fly at first. So, but yeah, I think that's everything I can think to talk of right now involving Kerasan. If you guys have any questions that I didn't answer in this video, you can comment them below, or you can send me a message on DeviantArt, and if I get enough questions about them, I'll probably make a part 2 to this. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about Kerasan right now. And by the way, the recording that I'm doing, the screen thing that I'm doing for this, like the drawing in the background, that is from my old art program. I have a new art program now because this one that I'm drawing with in the video, it decided that it didn't want to work for me anymore. So I have a completely new art program now, and it's the one that you guys have been seeing me draw art with on DeviantArt. Sorry. And that's another thing, why some videos have been taking a while, because I'm trying to get used to the new art program. If you have any suggestions for videos other than Kerasan based that you would like me to talk about, whether it be an art thing or whatever, you can also comment below, or you could just message me on my DeviantArt, which I'll link in the description. But other than that, I hope you guys have a great day. I hope this video was helpful at least a little bit. And yeah, that's it. I'll try to make another video soon, hopefully on another interesting topic. And I'm sorry if I rambled in this, or if I just kind of got off topic or anything. I tried my best to script this, and I tried my best to stay on topic with certain things and make sure I got everything. But yeah, I will see you guys later. Bye.